John and Joan met 3 years ago while apple picking. Every year they go back to the same orchard in the North Georgia mountains to celebrate their anniversary of meeting. This year would be different. This year John was going to propose to Joan. He rented a cabin in the woods, which overlooked the Blue Ridge Mountains, and where they would stay when she said yes. Yes to her marrying him and spending the rest of her life with him as his wife. They had been dating since that first day at the orchard and were deeply in love. John planned the entire trip. Joan's sister Jamie would pack a bag for Joan without her knowing. The entire family was in on what was happening, well, except for Joan. John had no backup plan for if Joan said no. He was certain she loved him as much as he loved her. He placed all his eggs in one basket, as the saying goes. As the weekend approached that would be their third anniversary, John had the ring packed, his clothes packed, and had the cabin filled with candles, flowers, and firewood. He had contacted the owner, and the owner was happy to oblige, as was happily married 37 years. He understood what love was about. John had asked the gentleman to fill 2 baskets full of apples, and leave them on the sides of the front door. One on the right, one on the left. John was happy to bring the orchard to their cottage. He was praying to be there with his fiancée. Joan was thrilled to be going away with John. She loved that man so damned much. She was not sure though at this point if they were on the same page or not. She wanted something lasting. She did not want this to go a minute more than was necessary, if he was not seriously thinking forward to a life together with her. Joan thought, perhaps I should cancel. She moved quickly, grabbing a sweater, and just heading to the orchard. John said he had work to do, and would just meet her. She did not think anything of it. Sometimes he just had to work weekends. She knew he worked late the night before, so they could get away. He told her he just had a few dead ends to pull tight, and he would be off to meet her. They both loved picking apples together. Joan could get the low ones, John the high ones. If they were high, John could lift Joan on his shoulders. They made a game out of who could fill a basket first. They played hide and seek each year through the rows and rows of trees. Each one had a favorite thing they liked about the day. Joan loved the hot apple cider donuts, John the homemade pumpkin bread, but each loved apples equally. John was almost to the orchard when Joan called. He answered on the first ring and said, "Hey darling, I am almost there." Joan said quietly, "Do you even want to go this year because your heart seems to be elsewhere?" John felt his chest tighten. He assured her he was close, and he would reassure her the minute his lips touched hers. Joan felt herself relax at the thought of kissing John again. She told him to drive safe and hung up as he came up behind her and beeped. Joan wanted to be mad he was late, but once in 3 years is not something to be mad about. John placed his hands on Joan's waist and kissed her so passionately that she went weak in the knees. Joan's mood lightened and she grabbed her basket and almost skipped into the orchard. She was flirting with her eyes at John, daring him to chase her. And off they went with hide and seek. The owner Samuel always loved watching Joan and John through his beloved orchard. It makes him think of his sweet Mary who passed last year. They had a love like that. At the end of another wonderful day of sweets and apple picking, John was almost to the edge of the orchard and got down on one knee and called Joan. She turned and saw him down on the ground and ran to his side. John handed her the most perfect red apple she had ever seen, and then she realized it was a porcelain replica of an apple. He bent one leg up and opened the apple in Joan's hand to reveal the most stunning oval diamond ring. It seemed to have yes it did, it had a red tint to it. It sparkled like a perfect apple in the sun. She looked at it, John said, "Joan, it has been the best 3 years of my life, and with you by my side, it will be the best life. Will you marry me?" Joan fell into John's arms crying. John mumbled through her hair, "Is that a yes or a no?" Joan jumped up and yelled, "Yes, I will marry you." The owner came over and poured them each a glass of apple cider to toast the occasion. He snapped their photo for them with their phones. John looked at the sparkle that now his fiancée wore on her hand. He knew life was going to be marvelous with Joan by his side. He looked at her, kissed her again, and they went to their cars. Joan's car was not parked in the lot. John assured her it was fine, and he drove them to the cabin. Joan could not believe her eyes when she saw the rustic wood cabin in the woods surrounded by baskets of apples, and two more by the door. Apparently, the owner thought more apples the better these two would be and placed them everywhere. John picked Joan up and carried her into the cottage. Joan had seen her car parked in the driveway as they pulled up. She found a bag of her belongings in the house. She was so shocked about all that had conspired. John told her he was not done surprising her, and he opened the back door of the cabin, and both their families had set out a huge picnic for everyone to celebrate the new engagement. Among all the food and decorations were of course bushels of bright red apples. Joan saw them and laughed and asked John what they are supposed to do with all these apples. He smiled and said, "Make apple cider together, apple butter, and anything else they felt like." Joan said that will not get rid of all of them. John assured her the rest the farmer will pick up, and they were just on loan. Joan smiled at John, kissed him deeply, and they went out to their family to celebrate their love and laugh about how something as small as an apple brought them together.